My name is Peggy Reddin. I'm the Director of Arts Education at Confederation Centre of the Arts. So within my job, I am responsible for the Dance Umbrella program, our outreach to the schools, visual arts programming I oversee. My biggest role the last few years has been to manage the programs of the Holland College School of Performing Arts that are offered through the Confederation Centre, half of that partnership. So I'm responsible for the theatre performance, dance performance, and performing arts foundation courses. I've been involved in performing arts since I was a little girl. When I was 10 years old, I used to come take my dance classes here at the Confederation Centre. And I had started even prior to that, and it was a on again, off again kind of relationship, but by the time I hit the age of 10, it was where I found my heart and my spirit, and my home was in the dance studio. So it was something I was very passionately interested in. In high school, I was taking dance, 10 hours a week or more. But then at the end of high school, I ended up traveling, and then I went to UPEI and tried various programs there, ended up graduating with a Bachelor of Philosophy, Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy. But serendipitously, in my graduating year, I received information from the National Ballet School through the mail, completely unsolicited, still don't know how it happened, explaining their teacher training program, which was a 3-year certificate course at the National Ballet School in Toronto. And it was exactly the right fit for me. It kind of makes you believe that there are powers in the universe that we really do not understand. I have absolutely no idea how it landed. How would they know that Peggy Reddin lived in New Dominion, PEI, a town of about 50 at the time? And yet there it was. It came to me, and I was fortunate that they accepted me and took me into the program. At that time, at the time that I was starting out in my journey, there were a lot of challenges associated with working in the arts. There still are. But I think I always knew right from the get-go that, especially in the performing arts, you make your own opportunities. So you need to understand that you won't be walking into an open door that says, here's the rest of your life. You create that life. And I always come back to that adage of, do you want to make a living or do you want to make a life? And in the arts, I think you have the option to do both, that you can have a balance between your work and your passion. And with the right choices along the way, you can manage those two, that you have a work-life balance that suits you well. And that's why people do work in the arts for a long time with, limited income potential, but certainly the ability to make a living and make a good living. When I look back on my life's work, I am so satisfied, and I am reaching the point now where I look, the career ahead of me is shorter than the career behind me, but thinking about the positive impact that I've had on all the students who have come through our program, thinking about the opportunities that we're starting to open now with the Holland College School of Performing Arts Confederation Centre partnership, I'm really proud of the work, and I think that the ecology for young artists on the island now is just getting stronger and stronger, better and better. I feel that we have a critical mass of young people who are choosing to stay here. When I first started teaching, it was an exodus. We would get students to a certain point, they would go off island for their further training and then not come back. And now I'm starting to have some of those students return. Others who are coming through the SOPA program are staying here. And I think there are enough young people generating the passion and the energy to become a really self-sustaining community. People's approach to a career in the arts has become more realistic. Hard logic is taking hold. We no longer say, I'm going to be a performer, it's going to be great. I think people are more aware of what is required, how much work is required, the kind of commitment that it takes. They are recognizing that governments play a factor with grants and so on, but they can't do it all. And so you have to be very self-motivated, have a good relationship with finances, find your own definition of success. Your parents might want you to be a doctor and make $200,000 a year. If that doesn't make you happy, If you're not happy in that life, then what are you willing to sacrifice? Will you give up some income, the more than necessary income, in order to have a life that you really enjoy? But you're not starving. The whole idea of the starving artist, I think we're past that. I think that people say, I am proud to be an artist. As an artist, I deserve to make an income. And I think society as a whole is becoming a little more respectful of the fact that our artists are important members, and they need to be supported, not just with grants, but also when you're buying something, make a decision. Is it going to be made in China, or is it going to be made by a local artisan? When you're choosing your entertainment dollars, can you support local bands rather than Bono? U2 doesn't really need your money anymore, but maybe Paper Lions do. As you're leaving high school and thinking about entering into programs to lead to a career, it's really important to keep a long-term goal, but to have short-term goals as well. So don't get overwhelmed by the idea that, oh my God, I'm going to be an artist, but I don't know what that means. Okay, let's start. Where do you continue your training? Most people coming out of high school, you don't have the proficiency that you need. So first, focus on developing the skills in your discipline. Then look at the extraneous pieces of that. In today's world, there's much more need for digital knowledge, for a mastery of social media, if you're going to go down that route. That in itself is a choice. How am I going to promote my business once I get to the point of having it? How am I going to manage financially? Let's look at a realistic budgeting process. What do I truly need to live? How can I achieve that? One thing we've talked about some with our students is the idea of having dual careers, hybrid careers, if you like. So it may be, especially as you're starting out, that you're working at Starbucks part-time and developing your theater or your dance career alongside that. That's not anything to be ashamed of, but it is good if you're looking at something like that. Try to find a boss who is supportive of your longer-term goals, that they will give you the flexibility to change your shifts as required. We've been very fortunate with the students in our programs. They do have sympathetic bosses, and so they work as best they can within their restraints to support the students' studies by accommodating their strange schedules as they surface. But I think really develop a very strong sense of yourself, of who you are. Don't look to others for your strength. Know that what you're doing is what you need to do, and it's the right path for you. Make the financial decisions that will help you follow that. So you may say that I'm not going to have a vacation in the sunny south every year, or I might not spend as much on clothes as I wish I did. On the other hand, I have a job I love to do, and long term that's far more important. So those are two things. Be financially aware, keep your eye on the long-term goal, find people who will support you. One thing about working in the arts is that it's so much fun. People from the outside think, oh, it's so much fun, you have so much fun. It's hard work, and you need to accept that. If you're coming into the performing arts thinking that you're going to have a blast, you're in it for all the wrong reasons, and you won't survive. So realize how much work is involved. And even though it's work that you love, it's still work, and it requires your devotion and your dedication. Have the self-discipline to get up every morning and write your 10 pages, or do your pliés, or do your vocal warm-ups, those sorts of things, to follow your career path. But don't get sidetracked by the shiny things. Keep your eye on the prize, stay connected to that goal. My degree is in philosophy, which might seem a strange degree for someone who works in the performing arts, but actually it was probably the best program I could have taken, short of straight technical training, because it did teach about critical thinking. It has been very helpful in aiding me to synthesize information. So all of these different things that are happening, how do we pull them together into a unified whole? Earlier days, I also did work with women's organizations. I developed a movement program for women with disabilities that just kept me open to the range of experience. I'm coming from the National Ballet School Bunhead program, if you like, where you're working with ideal bodies and so on, and then to the other extreme of people who maybe have had a stroke or who have MS with very limited potential for movement, but still the movement brought about in them the same change that it brings about in me. That idea of the passion and the great feeling for spirit and body combined when you're doing dance. So what else have I done in my life? I've worked with Parks Canada, and I think that really gave me an appreciation for nature. And nature and dance end up interconnected many times as well. One of my favorite projects that we've done lately has been what we call on-site performance or site-specific performance, working outdoors and drawing those influences into your work. So that also has played a role. Maybe that's what I love about the arts, is that it does incorporate all of your experience. You don't close the door and say, now I'm a dancer. I take into the studio everything that I've been going through my whole life, and I process that to try to come up with something to give back. When I graduated from the National and came back home, I did teach with another organization for 2 years and enjoyed it very much, but I reached a point where I knew I wanted to be having more control over my work situation. And I was fortunate that a woman who was also a modern dancer, we got together and shared a vision for a program. So Julia Sauvé and I created Dance Umbrella in 1988. And that was an example of creating your own opportunity. It's 27 years later. How did that happen? And we have literally had thousands of students go through the school. Now some of them are coming back to contribute to the local arts community, and it's such a great feeling for us as we're getting closer to retirement, that we know that the tradition will continue with the next generation. I know now that this little dream that we had would survive, and it would succeed, and it would become a program that was worthy of being taken into the realm of the Confederation Center, which is, a nationally recognized organization. So when I was approached by then CEO David Mackenzie about incorporating Dance Umbrella into the Confederation Center, one of my main incentives for accepting his offer was that I knew the school would survive past my best before date, and it would have stability as part of this organization that it wouldn't necessarily have as a continuing independent organization. Mostly, I think we both knew that it was going to be a lot of hard work when we started the school. That was no surprise to either of us. I think I didn't know how much joy I would find along the way. If you want to follow a career in any of the performing arts, I think especially dance, because that's my bailiwick, but any of the performing arts, you have to be optimistic. If you set yourself up that, I'll never be able to do this, well, yeah, you're right, you'll never be able to do it. But if you say, I have a challenge in front of me, I am doing what I love, I will make the sacrifices that I need to make within reason. And I think especially on PEI, we are blessed in this community. We have access to so much more than people who are in cities of 3.5 million. We're not just another number. There is a community here that comes to recognize us. So take advantage of that. You do have access to people here who can help you with your career in a way that you don't necessarily in a larger center. And the senior artists are really supportive of younger artists. If you approach them looking for help, they will help you. They're willing to share their expertise and their experience with you. And it's not hard to do here. So I think in many ways, although our population is limited, our opportunities are every bit as great as you would have in another center.
Yeah.
Identify the people who are doing work that you respect and go talk to them and ask them to share their experience with you. It doesn't even need to be in your field. It might be as a dancer that you're looking at someone who's working in the music industry. Approach them and find the similarities between your two career paths. Go to the organizations that are there to support you. Locally, we do have Culture PEI, and we do have the PEI Council of the Arts. There are also discipline-specific industry associations like Music PEI. So they are there to help you. In dance, we don't have a service industry here. There are national organizations such as the Dancers Transition Resource Center, which is a great organization for people transitioning into or out of a career as a performer in dance. They're located in Toronto, but small world. The director happens to be a former Islander who is always happy to take calls from people from PEI. We also have organizations like the Canadian Dance Assembly. So they are there to help you develop your career and to ask you questions. Take advantage of it. One idea I do want people to get is that the breadth of roles within the performing arts is greater than we realize. So people think, oh, I'm in dance, I'm going to be a dancer. Well, you could be a dancer, you could be an educator, you could be a choreographer, you could be a producer. You could end up running a theater. So there are a lot of different roles, and explore those as well. And to be perfectly honest, I have many friends working in the arts who are all of those things all at one time. So keeping focused on acquiring the skills of the discipline is really important. But in addition to, do take the time to explore the breadth of roles within your profession. For the performing arts, what I do feel that one of our greatest challenges is the change in technology. It's a challenge to get people to leave their homes and come out to live performance. So much is available online that is very good quality. It's a different kind of experience than coming into a theater and having a communication actor to audience or dancer to audience, audience to dancer. So technologies are challenging for us. We also, as artists in our chosen field, have to know how best to use those technologies to our advantage. And you see that changing a lot in live performance now as more video is being used. 10 years ago, video was a big deal in dance. It's now this pendulum is starting to swing the other way more so, that people are realizing, is it contributing or is it detracting from the dance performance? So there's critical judgment to be made in that. So balancing technology and how it affects our art discipline will be a challenge. Aging demographic is a challenge for the world, for Canada certainly, as there are getting to be fewer young people. For the performing arts, that's not as big of a challenge in terms of audience. I think that, middle-aged people are probably the ones who are likely to come out to see live performance. So farther down the road, that may be more of a challenge for us, but I think the immediate challenge is balancing the use of technology with the art, and how best to take advantage of it and have it not take advantage of us. I've been really fortunate that I've had the career that I have had and that I do have. The best part for me truly is getting to know the young people as they're coming through the program, helping them to make the decisions that we've been talking about, helping them to understand both the challenges and the joys of working in the arts, and feeling that we have had a positive influence on their life. Whether they do end up as dancers, whether they end up as choreographers. One of our graduates is associate director at the Thousand Islands Playhouse. Some have gone into medicine. A surprising number have gone into medicine, either as nurses, physiotherapists, or doctors, which actually isn't surprising given the physical connection with dance. Some are making music. So for me, I think looking back at a lifetime of having some influence on those students is probably what I am most proud of, what gives me the most joy.